News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KVNU.
KVNU News Time is 4:03. I'm Bill Walter with this news update. On his monthly visit to KVNU's For the People program this month, Logan City School District Superintendent Frank Schofield brought 3 National Merit Scholarship semifinalists from Logan High School: Dohoon Quag, Ariane Fells, and Elia Rice Warren. Schofield said they belong to an elite group.
And the way that works is over 1 million students are considered for this based on their junior PSAT scores during their junior year of high school. And then about 16,000 are selected as national semifinalists. So out of over 1 million students that are considered, they winnow that down quite a bit, and we have 3 of those students at Logan High School.
Elia said, like other students, she wants to have a good time at school.
I think there's definitely, obviously, a desire to goof off and go have fun with friends. But for me, I've always cared a lot about what I'm doing academically. I like learning. I like feeling myself succeed academically. And so I think that motivation came a lot just from inside of me and knowing this is what I want to do. I have big plans for my future that I want to be able to achieve. And I can't get there unless I work hard while I'm in high school and in middle school, even elementary school.
Sure.
It's just always sort of come from wanting to succeed.
We'll hear from a couple of the other students on a later KVNU newscast. KVNU News Time is 4:04. KVNU weather for tonight, mostly clear skies, low around 20. And then sunny tomorrow and warmer, up around 50 for the high. We've stayed in the 40s today. 43 has been our high. It's 43 right now at KVNU. Hey, a big assortment of dining tables that they recently picked up from name brand manufacturers. You'll find that at U&I Furniture, some with benches and swivel stools, small tables to big tables for family gatherings. Always a better buy at U&I, downtown Logan, 28 West, 1st North. KVNU News Time is 4:05. Firefighters were called to a small fire inside a North Logan townhome early this morning. The fire was reported near 300 East, 2200 North, just after 4:30 a.m. According to emergency radio communications, the 2 occupants inside the townhome woke up to find a couch on fire. They called 911 and attempted to extinguish the flames. First crews to arrive on the scene reported the fire had been put out, but heavy smoke remained inside the townhome. The occupants had been able to evacuate without injury. Firefighters located the source of the fire coming from a futon mattress. They removed the cushion from the residence and then ventilated the home to remove the smoke. The cause of the fire and extent of the damage is being determined. Several families in Utah are mourning after a couple lost their lives in a plane crash. Vaughn Porter and Jamie Redford Rust were killed after their small plane crashed in Northern California. According to the local sheriff's office, the incident occurred shortly after the aircraft departed from an airport. The plane caught fire, and once the fire was extinguished, first responders discovered the victims, both of whom are from Utah County. Caleb Porter said his dad, Vaughn Porter, had always loved flying. A GoFundMe for Vaughn online reads, "After losing our mom unexpectedly last year, our dad stepped up admirably to fill the gaping hole left in our family without her. Despite this incomprehensible tragedy, he remained positive, always seeking ways to bring joy and togetherness to our lives. He was the heart of our family, and we're now at a complete loss without him." Vaughn and his girlfriend, Jamie Redford Rust, took a trip to California. Family started to get worried when they didn't hear from Vaughn, so they started to Google around. Vaughn's girlfriend, Jamie, leaves behind 3 children and some grandkids. There's also a GoFundMe set up for Jamie by family and friends. The National Transportation Safety Board is still investigating the cause of the crash. Both victims were in their 50s. And this traffic update, 3100 North between 800 and 1200 East in North Logan is going to be closed today and tomorrow. It will not be passable for road construction. Again, that's 3100 North between 800 East and 1200 East. KBNU News Time is 4:08. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
The Aggies are back on KVNU. Hear every game along with the best coverage before and afterwards on News Talk KVNU, the home again for the Aggies.
This is Ryan, My Mattress. Thanks to you, we're the #1 purple mattress dealer in northern Utah. But there's a store down in Ogden that we're neck and neck with. I'll make you a deal. If you buy a purple mattress today, I will sell it to you for less than anyone in the country. That includes online or any store, plus you get to lay on it and try it out. You've got to come in today to either of our Cache Valley locations, North Store by Red Balloon Toys and South Store by Big 5 Sports. Come buy a purple mattress for lower than anywhere in the country. Isn't it time to sleep exceptionally? Only at My Mattress.
This is Detective Ditzel with the Logan City Police. Law enforcement agencies are seeing a spike in vehicle thefts this year. A large majority of these crimes were due to unlocked doors and keys being left inside. We encourage citizens to protect themselves and make sure your vehicle is locked, the keys have been removed, and nothing of value has been left inside. Also, with colder temperatures here, don't leave your vehicle warming in the garage or driveway unattended. This is a prime opportunity for thieves. Don't become a victim.
To protect her home and family in a disaster, Karen was willing to wade through water, mud, and insurance paperwork.
Yeah, I can do this.
You go, Karen! By simply understanding and updating what her insurance covers and doesn't cover now, she'll be better prepared no matter when disaster strikes. Learn other simple ways to protect your home and family before a natural disaster at ready.gov. That's ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
We are there in your community. Small business owners, mechanics, police officers, homemakers. And we are there serving our nation in the Air Force Reserve. When medical emergencies arise, in cybersecurity, when natural disasters happen, we are there in space. We are Reserve Citizen Airmen, and we are there with over 180 different jobs to serve your country. Air Force Reserve.
Reach the Sheriff's Department Civil Processing Division. Please hold where call is transferred to Sergeant David Chapman. Deputy record.
This is Sheriff Chad Jensen. Fraudulent phone calls similar to this one have been received by many citizens in Cache County. The most common scams are asking for payment over the phone because of a lawsuit, civil bench warrant, or to post bail for a family member who has supposedly been arrested. They ask for payment in form of prepaid cards, gift cards, or money transfers, and if you do not pay, they threaten to arrest you. The Sheriff's Office does not take payment or ask for personal information over the phone. These types of scams often use internet phone numbers which are nearly impossible to track. If you receive a phone call of this nature, do not give out any personal information and hang up. Be cautious about the information you give out over the phone to make sure you are not the next victim of a scam.
The world needs more heroes, more action-oriented do-gooders, more here's how I can help right-hand men and women. The world of sarcoma is no different. And if you're thinking, what is sarcoma? We're glad you're listening. Sarcoma is a rare cancer of the body's soft tissue and bone, a cancer affecting tens of thousands of Americans every year. A cancer that has more than 70 subtypes, many of which require unique treatment options at various stages of discovery, and we lose thousands of lives to sarcoma in the U.S. on a yearly basis. The Sarcoma Foundation of America partners with heroes, do-gooders, and helpers from all walks of life to advocate for sarcoma patients through funded research and widespread awareness efforts. New and more effective sarcoma therapies are out there. We just need to work together to discover them and find a cure for this cancer once and for all. Now is the time to step up and fight the good fight against sarcoma. Join forces by visiting curesarcoma.org to learn more.
What makes essential workers essential?
We build safe roads for you to drive on.
We harvest fresh produce for your families to eat.
We help you heal when you're sick.
We get you where you need to go.
We keep where you work and live clean and safe.
We make sure you get what you need to make your household work.
You're the essential workers who help our nation run. You're in every city, town, and corner of our country, and you come from all over the globe. And you have essential protections under the law. I'm Marty Walsh. The Wage and Hour Division at the Department of Labor helps ensure you receive the essential protections you deserve. If you have questions about your pay or about your job protection during an illness, Visit our website or call 866-4US-WAGE. That's 866-487-9243. We can provide help in more than 200 languages.
Brought to you by the United States Department of Labor.
For the people.
We are waiting with bated breath for news from the Cash Republican Party meeting an executive committee tonight.
With Jason Williams.
And I'm really excited about this next segment. We have two guests here in studio. We're going to talk about something that we've talked about many times here on the show, but from a bit of a different angle.
Weekday afternoons from 4 till 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 a.m. and 102 FM.
Welcome to KVNU's For the People. It is a beautiful Monday afternoon here in Cache Valley. I hope everyone's enjoying it. I'm going to start right out here. I'm Jason Williams, Bill Walter here in the studio as well. Start right out here answering a listener's question. And we're happy to do this, although, you know, when you have these questions, you can also always call Logan City or check with their website. They're great to answer these questions on the phone. But a listener said... a listener doing some fall cleanup apparently in their yard had discovered that their city was not doing green waste collection. Mine didn't either this summer. They said it would be back next summer. And so they said, is it too late? Do you guys know? Is it too late for the Logan landfill? No, it is not. I'm not sure if there is a cutoff for green waste, but
I think they take it year round.
Yeah.
I thought I remember hearing from Emily.
At a certain point, it probably doesn't come up very much in December, January, you know, when there's, especially last winter, there's 3 feet of snow on the ground. But yeah, the location out there is open year round. They don't close those gates to the green waste area as far as I know. But I do know this from making a trip there recently myself. They do close at 5 every day. So it's a bit tighter for those who work in the daytime to get out there during the week. So Saturdays are going to be your best bet. But yeah, I don't know. I did when I saw that question, I did shoot an email off to our friend Emily Malik. And as soon as she gets back to me, I'll be able to say for sure. But to my knowledge, that never closes out there. And they are, understanding that many cities didn't, either through negligence or bad planning or intentional planning with a plan to pick it back up next year. And it's a combination of all those things from the stories I've heard out there in the valley. Some cities didn't have green waste bins or collection options for their residents this year, so taking it to the Logan landfill. Logan City was cognizant of that. They're aware that a lot more people will be coming through, so they actually have a dedicated lane. If you come through with green waste, you hit the center lane, not the lane closest to the guard shack. You hit the center lane, you stop there, and they'll look out, they see you have green waste, and they wave you through. And then there are some rules when you get back in there. They have different piles for different stuff. So they don't want you throwing branches and tree clippings and things like that over with the lawn clippings, and they're trying to keep leaves separate as well out there. So, but otherwise, it's pretty slick. And you can get in and out of there in about 10 minutes if you're fast. So a couple of announcements here to make. First off, I announced last week that we'd nailed down the teletown hall, or the radio town hall, for Congressman Blake Moore for November 6th. Almost immediately after I made that announcement, the new Speaker of the House, some guy that you've never heard of before, but we'll be hearing a lot about in the coming days, rearranged the House calendar And so message from Caroline on Congressman Moore's team. Starting out first off, I hope you had a great weekend. Bad news. We are playing scheduled Tetris over here as the revised House calendar continues to be filled out. It's making life very complicated. So right now what we're thinking is bumping that November 6th town hall here on KVNU with Congressman Moore to November 13th. The reason for this is that on Monday, November 6th, he's not going to be available until about 5:20, maybe even 5:30. So we would have to do a 30-minute town hall. And every time we've done one of these before, we've had a full hour of phone calls from listeners throughout the district. So we're going to bump that to, again, tentatively at this point. November 6th was for sure, and then things changed because that's always how it goes. So tentatively, November 13th at 5 p.m., Congressman Blake Moore will join us for an hour-long radio town hall. It is district-wide, so the phone lines, both our 800 number and the regular 753-5868 will be live for that, and should be a good time. These are always unscripted, and Congressman Moore fields any question. They've never once sent me, well, okay, that's not true. One time they sent me in advance a request that we ignore questions about a certain topic, but that was because it was a topic that he didn't have an answer for yet. It had literally come up that day, and he hadn't had a chance to read this was back when Nancy Pelosi was Speaker, and she'd made a change that killed one of his projects, and he hadn't actually read it yet. So he asked if he could hold off on responding to that. But that was the only time they've ever asked me to filter a question or a topic out. So anything is fair game. And again, we're shooting at this point, assuming nothing changes, and things might. New Speaker of the House, he's not very experienced in Congress, and he's figuring this out as he goes. And they're trying to put this back together after not having a speaker for 22 days. So the calendar could change again. But right now, we're shooting for Monday, November 13th at 5 p.m. for that radio town hall with Congressman Blake Moore. And one other announcement to get the show started here. I'm really excited about this because it's been years, and it was years. It was more than a decade that we did this before. Longtime listeners of the show will remember, and you, Bill, I know will remember sometimes the phone lines just lighting up when we'd air these. But for more than 10 years, we aired Sutherland Institute's Miro Moment. This was done by our good friend Paul Miro, who's now off being retired in Arizona, Las Vegas.
The golden voice has retired to Arizona.
I always said the dulcet tones of Paul Miro, and that always irritated him. That's why I said it. But Paul Miro, a conservative thinker, writer, and long-time president of the Sutherland Institute. He left that job and started working as in academia and some other things. Wrote a book and is now, as I understand it, happily enjoying retirement with his wife in Las Vegas. And that's when we wrapped. Paul told me one day, he said, "It's been 11 years. I've done this every week for that long." I think we kept it going even after he left the Sutherland Institute. We just, instead of Sutherland Institute's Miro Moment, it was just the Miro Moment. But Paul said, I think I'm out of ideas. I don't want this to get tired and old. So he hung up his hat and actually joined us here in the studio for an hour-long live Miro Moment that day. Really sad to see that end, though, because we had some great conversations over the years. Whether you agreed with Paul or not, it got you thinking. So I'm excited to announce that we're going to be bringing something similar back. Sutherland Institute each week releases a podcast called Defending Ideas, and they've even set up a website separate from the main conservative think tank's website, SutherlandInstitute.org. They've set up defendingideas.org, and you can check it out now if you want to. But what they're going to do is, so each week they plan these out. Each week they know who their guests are going to be and what their topic of conversation is going to be for the Defending Ideas podcast. But what they're going to do is record a special segment that you'll only be able to hear here on KVNU. And we'll do that every Tuesday at 5 o'clock starting tomorrow. So I just literally, Bill knows, one of the reasons we were a few minutes late starting, I was on the phone with them, and I was trying to tell them, I got to go. And they were just dotting a few more I's, crossing a few more T's. This is going to be fun. These always, again, were great for conversation starters. Whether you agreed or not, they would make you think. And our good friend Nick Dunn, we spoke with him for years as a spokesperson for Utah Department of Workforce Services. He's left the public sector and is now working as the communications lead for the Sutherland Institute. And he reached out to me on this. He's a big radio guy. Used to do radio here in Cache Valley even when he was a student.
Really?
Yeah. And,
wow.
He was a long time. And Al Lewis is like a celebrity to him, he said. He's a sports fan. And he said, boy, I just, Al Lewis and his voice. And he said, he'll always be the voice of the Aggies to me. And so he reached out and he said, we wanted to do this, and we wanted to do it with you guys, with KVNU. Because you ran the Miro Moment for years, but also they're just trying to branch out and be less of a... After Paul left, the Sutherland Institute became kind of a Salt Lake City-centered policy shop and think tank again, and they lost some of their footprint statewide. They retained their footprint with the legislature. They still are very involved there and still have some influence there. But they were, at a time, getting people to talk about things at city council meetings and counties. So, I'm excited to do this. It will be from a conservative perspective. They are a conservative think tank. But Sutherland Institute is a unique beast. If you remember, this is the organization that threw Utah up in the air at the heyday of their influence in the legislative circles. Sutherland Institute put out an immigration brief, a recommendation, really, for state lawmakers that was further left than the Republican president at the time. And basically it said, from a cultural perspective here in Utah, a religious perspective, and a moral perspective, humane immigration reform needs to happen at the federal level. Until that does, the states need to lead. And they basically endorsed a quasi-amnesty program. A few years later, that was law here in Utah. Now, no state can actually grant amnesty, but it was similar. It was basically a route to work visas and more here in Utah that complied with federal rules. And that surprised everyone because it was coming from a conservative think tank. And that's what I think makes Sutherland Institute unique, is they're approaching this from a smart policy perspective, and they're not afraid to go a little left sometimes. They're not afraid to go very right sometimes as well. Not far right, but close at times. And they're consistent, and that's what's respectable. So, again, Sutherland Institute will be joining us on a weekly basis again every Tuesday at 5 for No Miro Moment. I wish we had an excuse to use that again. Had so much fun with that over the years. But this will be called Defending Ideas, which is their new project. So a couple announcements to start the show today. Get back, talk about what's in the news right after this.
Hi there. We're your new neighbors, the Voles. I'm Horrible, and this is my wife, Terrible. Hi! It's been such a great summer, we gotta have an army of children. Now we're fixing to tear up your yard. The only warning sign of us is some surface tunneling holes, and then boom! Yard death! What do you think? Should we get started, Ma? Yep. These guys aren't gonna call the troops at Logan Extermination.
Voles are a problem. They can tear up your lawn and garden. But there is something you can do. Call Logan Extermination at 752-8450.
Saturday, Utah State football travels to San Diego to face the Aztecs. The Aggies are looking to bounce back and make a statement.
We got to pull together and really care about each other enough to keep working and get better, and we can.
Pre-game begins at 3, kickoff is at 5, and post-game and Aggie call immediately follows the game. It's the Aggies and the Aztecs, Saturday on News Talk KVNU, the heritage home for the Aggies.
It's a fun column at CashValleyDaily.com. I'll point everyone to this by Cache Valley resident Todd Thomas. And it's titled, Do You Remember the Bubblers? And I haven't thought about these for years, but I'm old enough that one actually existed at my elementary school, which doesn't exist anymore. They knocked that down years ago, an old brick multi-story elementary school. And it's been replaced with a newer, more earthquake sound building, of course. But down in the basement in this old elementary school was a bubbler. And what's meant by bubbler, you remember those old water fountains? And they were just a round ceramic dish with a metal sort of light bulb shaped thing in the middle. And it would just gurgle water. There wasn't even a little lever for you to pull on, if you wanted to drink. You just walked up. It was always gurgling, and you took
like a mini fountain.
Yeah, that's well. Thomas is writing about Preston, and it's a fun column. He says you may have noticed the installation of 3 new water fountains on Main Street, Preston, placed in the same location as the stone edifices of my childhood. Any of us now in our 4th decade or older should remember those old structures or bubblers, a spigot with a metal ball on top for the water to bubble out in a constant flow. He said, I can recall 2 others, one in the Nilsson Gym and one in the northwest corner of First West and Second North by the baseball diamonds. I remember that one in Preston because, the baseball diamonds, we had to go up there once. He says, I remember riding my bike down the sidewalk, illegal, I realize, and pulling right up to the fountain to bend over and take a gulp without having to even get off my bike. A generation older than me can recall a public restroom, subterranean, at the entrance of the Rotary Club at mid-block. I didn't know that about Preston. He goes on, though. He's talking. He says those were the days of bell-bottoms, $1 a gallon gas, peachy portfolios in school. I don't know what that is. Instamatic cameras, I do know what those are, and cube flash bulbs. And I hadn't thought of some of this stuff in years. The point of it, though, he said, the replacing of these drinking fountains on Main Street, Preston, made him feel nostalgic. And he said, you get thinking about these times long ago, and I can think of some things, the Cache Valley Mall coming down, Main Street changing. It reminds you that times always change, and sometimes you forget to notice it, and sometimes we only get angry about the change because we do, for whatever reason, notice it that time. Otherwise, we just let the change happen and accept it. And Thomas writes in his column, there's a lesson there. It's a great read. I've just skimmed it here for you, but check it out. It's at CacheValleyDaily.com. I've linked to it on our Facebook page, and we'll be back after the news with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 4:32, and the news is brought to you by U&I Furniture. The wreckage of a small plane reported missing on Friday has been located in the mountains of central Utah. The NTSB says the wreckage of the Cessna was found Saturday in steep and very hazardous terrain near Huntington. Because of the location, the safety board will rely on a wreckage recovery company to bring the aircraft to a secure location. where an investigator will examine it. Authorities have not said how many people were on the plane, where it was headed, or what caused the crash. The single-engine plane is designed to carry up to 5 passengers and a pilot. A one-stoplight farming community in conservative Idaho has embraced a goal that backers describe as progressive: universal preschool. Idaho has left early child care and education largely up to families, but a grassroots effort to support children and families led American Falls to rally around a simple mantra: read, talk, play. The town has seen improvements in preschool access and kindergarten readiness. The success has been fueled by a broader experiment spreading across the state, where communities build their own systems for early childhood education. Kevin Durant scored 26 points. Eric Gordon added 21, and the Phoenix Suns easily handled the Utah Jazz 126-104. The Suns dominated the majority of the game, never trailing after the first few minutes. They opened a 16-point lead by halftime Saturday and led by 30 midway through the third quarter after Grayson Allen threw down a one-handed jam in traffic. Phoenix was playing without two-thirds of its star trio. Devin Booker missed his second straight game, while Bradley Beal has missed all 3 games this season. The Jazz had 19 turnovers in a sloppy performance. Lauri Markkanen had 19 points, making 5 3-pointers. The Jazz travel to face Denver tonight. KBNU News Time is 4:34.
Is it time to upgrade or transform your dining area? Stop in and browse UNI Furniture's big selection of dining sets. UNI just picked up a spectacular assortment from different brand name manufacturers. They have small tables for 2 up to a big table for all family gatherings. UNI has lots of options, some with benches and swivel stools. And make sure you check out the chairs UNI has. Accent chairs, recliners, upholstered chairs, and more. There really is always a better buy at UNI. UNI Furniture in downtown Logan.
The Biden administration defending Israel's military operation in northern Gaza. Israeli troops appear to move deeper into the Palestinian territory. Aid groups say the largest convoy of food and medical supplies to arrive in Gaza since the war broke out still fell far short of needs. White House National Security spokesman John Kirby.
We had 45 or so get in yesterday. We're hoping that we can get some more in today, but obviously, even with the increase, it's going to take time to make up the difference, and we know there's an awful lot that needs to happen to accelerate and to increase that flow of aid.
The House plans to vote this week on a standalone bill that gives Israel $14 billion in aid, but nothing for Ukraine. The White House says it expects Congress to pass aid for both on an emergency basis. President Biden in a statement applauding what he calls a landmark agreement between striking auto workers and General Motors. All 3 major U.S. car makers now have a tentative deal. Chuck Sievertson, ABC News.
KBNU weather for tonight, mostly clear, low around 20, sunny and around 50 tomorrow, mostly sunny into the mid-50s on Wednesday. It's been to 44. It's 44 degrees right now at KBNU. Whole tree care will trim, shape, and even remove trees for you. Call Whole Tree Care at 435-760-6587. You can always get more news at CashValleyDaily.com. Let's check Wall Street now with Edward Jones.
Good afternoon. This is Raydell Gibbons bringing you the Daily Financial Market Report on behalf of financial advisor Tron Arnold and Edward Jones. The stock market rallied today, with major indexes closing higher by over 1% after falling sharply last week. The S&P 500 outperformed the technology-heavy NASDAQ. Today, the Dow closed up 511 points at 32,929, while the NASDAQ closed up 146 points at 12,789, and the S&P 500 closed up 49 points at 4,167. And in the bond market today, the 10-year Treasury yields are trading at 4.87% higher. For stocks of local interest, Thermo Fisher closed up $2.70 at $434.11. Home Depot is up $5.02 at $281.48. Auto leaves down $1.18 at $91.23. Lowe's is up $4.10 at $187.72. Walmart is up $1.85 at $163.02. Nucor is up 84 cents at 148.95. Coca-Cola is up 91 cents at 56.15. Kroger's up 52 cents at 44.95. And General Electric closed up $3.46 at $109.81. In the commodity market today, the price of crude oil was down $3 at $82.54. The price of gold was up $6.50 at $2,005. This has been today's Financial Market Report, brought to you on behalf of Edward Jones, member of the SIPC, and financial advisor Tron Arnold, serving individual investors with personalized attention and financial advice, located at 1202 South U.S. Highway 89 in Logan, Utah. If you'd like additional information, please contact our branch office at 753-2400. Daily commentary is also located on our website at edwardjones.com.
If cost is preventing you from calling an attorney after your accident, you can stop worrying now. You can call the Advocates and discuss your case with an experienced Cache Valley attorney at no cost to you. At the Advocates, when we say you pay zip, nil, nothing, we mean it. Our consultations are free and we don't get paid unless we win your case. Let us be your advocate and we will fight for the settlement you deserve without you ever opening your wallet. Call 801-355-5550 or chat online at utahadvocates.com.
Clean it up and get it out this fall.
Don't wait another winter. Let DD Auto and Salvage pay you for that junk vehicle. DD Auto and Salvage makes it so easy and fast to get rid of your junk or vehicles by paying you the most money possible. Pickup is available. If you have metal, DD Auto and Salvage in Logan want to pay you today. Search DD Auto and Salvage today or call 787-1204.
That's 787-1204.
See store for details.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. Story about this at CacheValleyDaily.com as well, with some photos if you want to see them. Last week, I told you that I still believe trunk or treating is cheating. I get it. I understand it. I even support it. I can't say that I wouldn't make the same decision if I had young kids because of streets being dangerous and you can do that at 5 PM in a closed-off parking lot, as opposed to, walking through the dark on streets full of cars. So I totally understand. I get it, especially in concentrated population areas, urban centers, and things like that. But I'm just saying you have to acknowledge it's cheating. Another kind of cheating, though, and one that I've got more ranting to do about than even trunk or treating, is the focus of the story at CacheValleyDaily.com. Now, the point of the story is that DWR is reminding hunters on e-bikes that there are some rules for e-bikes on trails. We'll get to those rules. But first off, hunters on e-bikes? This is a worse kind of cheating, than trunk or treating. I thought the point of this was to get out in nature and prove your skill as a hunter. And I get it. You're going to drive a vehicle as far as you can. That's what every hunter's always done, to a camp, to something.
Boy, I hope the tires are big enough.
Well, but usually what happens is you drive that truck to a camp or a trailhead or whatever it might be where you hunt, and then you hoof it because the deer are smart and they're back away from those types of roads. And I thought that was part of the challenge. I thought that's why so many people go out and do this every fall. But to learn that these hoity-toity, fragile flowers that apparently make up our hunter base now are scooting along on their e-bikes on those single-track foot trails that the deer use, And think about it. You could get into some pretty remote places on an e-bike. You could cover a lot of ground on an e-bike. You don't even have to pedal.
Is there a space for their gun? For the gun? I guess.
In this specific story by Rod Boehm, they're talking about the bow hunters, which is a little easier, carry on your back and things like that, a little safer. But I'm guessing this has probably been happening with rifle hunters too. I've never thought of this. I've seen the e-bikes on the trails. I love them. I want one myself one day. And a decent one, they're not cheap. A decent one's going to cost you $2,000, $3,000. Some of the super high priced Teslas of e-bikes are $6,000, $7,000. But I have never thought about this. I've never seen it either. I've seen a lot of people on the trails on e-bikes. I saw a whole group going from Tony Grove to White Pine on e-bikes a little while ago. And there's no exhaust fumes. They don't stir up a lot of dust. It's no different than passing, someone on a mountain bike. So I've never found them annoying. I've seen a few situations where someone went all Karen or Chad on an e-bike rider because they can go a little faster, and sometimes e-bike riders aren't too smart about that ability to go a little faster, coming around some of those corners and nearly clipping a small child, things like that. So that's why DWR has rules, by the way. And again, we'll get to those. But I just want to keep going back to this e-bike hunter business. This is way worse than trunk or treating. Trunk or treating, I can at least get the safety aspect of it to justify not actually to tell your kids we're going trick or treating, but then you take them to a parking lot where all the cars and tables are sitting there and they just walk around in a circle and pick up candy, much like you do at a grocery store. I mean, really, if you're going to trunk or treat, just take your kids to the candy aisle at Smith's or Macy's and just have them walk the candy aisle in their costume. Same concept as trunk or treating. But I get it. There's a safety angle. There's a timing angle. There's even a get the whole neighborhood together angle, which I could see could be fun, sort of like a tailgating party, literally. I understand it. It's still cheating, but I understand it. I do not understand e-bike hunting. This is just cheating. There is not a safety justification for this. There is not a justification that in any way makes it more difficult to hunt or more of a challenge to hunt. You are basically on a small single track trail size vehicle where you normally have to get it on foot, like the deer you're hunting do, and you're just scooting along on your little e-bike, not even pedaling. And just scooting right up to where the deer are sleeping early in the morning, shooting one. And then I guess, I don't know how at that point, you're not dragging it out with your e-bike. So I guess at that point, maybe you have to hike in. This is not hunting. This is, I am so disappointed to learn that this is a big thing in Utah. The reason this is at CashValleyDaily.com today, though, is that it's become such a popular thing, which, as you've just heard me say, is shocking and disgusting, but it is so popular that the Utah Department of Wildlife Resources wants to remind everyone that there are some pretty strict rules for e-bikers. E-bike use apparently, again, even during hunting season, has increased dramatically, and Department Captain Chad Bettridge of the Department of Wildlife Resources said, as a result of e-bike use, we're seeing increased use on our waterfowl and wildlife management areas. Basically, people can ride in, places where you'd normally have to illegally go on a motorcycle or on foot. Those are your two options. Now they can go in on an e-bike, just like mountain bikers, because they're the same size. But they're able to cover more distance because they're not pedaling. They're riding. So it's allowing more people to get into areas that usually were a little less crowded because you had to get there on foot on a little single track trail. So Bettridge says because of this, they are noticing more damage, of course, with more people to habitat. So some new rules were put in place last year, and many people don't know about them. And they're basically rules similar to rules we've had before, but with e-bikes in mind. And they're all geared towards preserving the land, property, wildlife habitat, and the ecology, of course, the health of the environment while you're out there. So what they've noticed, though, is the e-bike users seem to have no idea. They don't realize the rules are different for them than for someone on a traditional mountain bike. Who is restricted because, like those on foot, they have to pedal. They're not going to go certain places. The e-bikers will. Here are some of the rules quick. Only Class 1 e-bikes are allowed in wildlife management areas. Class 1 e-bikes they top out at 20 miles an hour. Some of the other classes can hit 28 to 38, even a 45. That one will cost you a few grand, but those are illegal off-road in all wildlife and waterfowl management areas in Utah. But apparently a lot of people don't know this. They think, well, it's just a bike. It's a mountain bike. Anywhere mountain bikers can go, I can go. That is actually not the case. In fact, most wildlife management areas in Utah, you can go anywhere there's a trail on a mountain bike, and you cannot on an e-bike unless it is a Class 1, which has a maximum speed of about 20 miles per hour. So they are out enforcing this as much as they can. And even with those limitations, Bedridge says that they've written several hundred violations this summer throughout the state of Utah. By the way, there are 193 wildlife management areas, and every single one of them DWR says they've had this problem. People on e-bikes able to get out further with less effort, similar to riding in a car, but it's the size of a bike. So they think they can go where the mountain bikers go, where the hikers go. And DWR just reminding people that is absolutely not the case unless you have one of the Class 1s that's limited to 20 miles an hour, which most people don't. Most people I know at least don't. The citation, by the way, for using a Class 2 or 3 e-bike off-road in any wildlife management area is an infraction. So it's not going to cost you a lot of money, but it'll cost you some. So keep in mind, and I'm going to go back to it one more time. Seriously, hunters, e-bikes? You are with I assume with a Starbucks in one hand and a pinky up as you scoot off into the trees to shoot your deer?
I hope not.
That is not hunting. That is, honestly, that is weaker hunting than those trips where rich people pay to shoot things from helicopters, which is also not hunting. That's a video game for rich people that ends in an animal's death that they aren't going to eat. And then they'll trophy mount it and put it on their wall and say, I hunted that. No, you shot it from a helicopter.
Now, those e-bikes, I guess I'm not that familiar with e-bike, although I know they cost hundreds and hundreds, thousands of dollars you can spend on them. But do they make a lot of noise? The engine is it loud?
No, they're
pretty quiet.
They're as quiet as a bike, a traditional bike, and they do have pedals like a bike, so they can be pedaled. And some of them, that pedaling will actually recharge the electric motor or the battery for the electric motor. But no, it's just an electric bike. And most people just scoot along like they're riding a scooter or a car, but it's got two wheels and shaped like a bike. And hunting off of them. I am so disgusted. If you know anyone that is e-bike hunting, laugh at them for me and tell them it came from Jason Williams, host of KVNU's For the People. That is not hunting. I am so shocked. This should have clicked before, but I am so shocked that people are doing this. It is not hunting. Walk. Hoof it. That's how you're supposed to get out where the deer are. That's the whole point of this, right?
It's tradition.
Yeah, it's the tradition. Now, I know there are few these days, but some who do still hunt for meat. And you cut them a bit of a pass. But the majority of hunters, deer hunters at least, and I would say all elk and moose hunters, because few are looking for their meat, as opposed to venison. But E-bikes? Seriously? That is cheating. You should be ashamed of yourselves, e-bike hunters. 753-5868. We'll be back right after this.
Attention homeowners. Winter is just around the corner, and that means now is the time to call Hall Tree Care for your last chance to get your overgrown trees trimmed before the snow starts falling. Overgrown trees are a ticking time bomb once the snow hits. Hall Tree Care's expert arborist and cleanup crew know exactly how to handle those unruly trees. They'll trim, prune, and secure your trees so they stand strong against winter's wrath. Call 760-6587. That's HULL Tree Care, 760-6587.
If you're near retirement or thinking about retiring, you probably have questions. How do you make your savings last? How much should you take out and when? You're ready for retirement, but are your finances? Your Edward Jones financial advisor can help you build a strategy to help your finances keep up with your long-term needs. You've done what it takes to get there. Now it's time to make the most of retirement. Call one of the 7 Edward Jones branch locations in Cache Valley or go to edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Shout out to Matthew Perry. I always, for someone who I didn't like in movies or TV shows, I liked him. It's usually the opposite.
He was probably of all the Friends, to me, he was the most likable.
Yeah, I didn't like any of them. I'm one of the few people of the generation that is supposed to like Friends that thought it was just kind of a not that entertaining show. I could never get into it. And people out there are probably screaming at me right now. But I always liked Matthew Perry because he was so open about his struggles with alcohol and drug addiction over the years and how he sort of turned his life into helping others with that same issue. And it was, you just had to respect him for that. But still no details. It'll be a while before we know any more. But for those who don't know, Matthew Perry, star of Friends and that horribly not funny football movie back in the 90s, he was found deceased in his hot tub. And so, obviously everyone's speculating, and he had struggled with pills and alcohol, throughout his life. So, but no details confirming any of that stuff have been released.
Yeah, that'll take a while, I think.
He was 50.
Toxicology reports and everything.
His age, though, does imply that there was likely something, but maybe a medical incident. I don't know. But he was only 54. So, yeah.
If you'd seen a picture of him in the last year or so,
he
unrecognizable.
unrecognizable.
Yeah, he looked kind of rough.
Yeah. I saw a clip of an interview where he talked about how he'd been spending all of his time training people to know how to productively talk to people with alcohol addiction and drug addiction, based on his own experiences. And he looked rough. But, sad news. A whole generation loved that guy. So I wanted to give everybody just an update on this because we talked about it a lot on the show. Man, I can't even remember how many years ago this was. Maybe you will, Bill. But years ago, 2017, it's in the story. In 2017, Standard Examiner reporting on this today, Ogden City bought a building in downtown Ogden that had been owned by the brothers who owned Smith and Edwards. And the reason it became a story is that so Ogden bought this building with the plans to they were going to just tear it down. It was right on the river, prime real estate for something else, railroad tracks nearby. So, a newer building, even if it was just a warehouse, it would be much better use of the space. And so Ogden bought the building for a reasonable price, I assume. But as part of their redevelopment agency purchases, and they bought it after having done just a quick inspection, and found that there were some old barrels, metal barrels, and some old office equipment. So very, very limited amount of stuff that needed to be cleaned out. So they bought it. And then when they actually started when the city had workers start cleaning this building out, they found out that one of the brothers who owned Smith & Edwards had basically been hiding toxic and hazardous materials in these barrels inside this abandoned building for likely years. Now, obviously, the reason a person would do that is to avoid having to pay to dispose of these toxic chemicals and hazardous waste. That was 2017, and everyone wondered, okay, what happened at this? They bought it for $400,000, and from Utah Smith, previously owned by the late, and that's the other thing, Bert Smith had passed away, Smith of Smith & Edwards fame. He'd passed away. So the EPA came in after they discovered all this stuff, and in 2019, they'd completed a lot of the cleanup. But in the end, this ended up costing the city of Ogden, because they purchased the building full of hazardous chemicals and toxic waste hidden there for years by Bert Smith. It cost the city of Ogden about $2 million to dig up. They had to dig the ground under this. So they cleaned up the barrels full of toxic waste, but they leaked over the years. So they actually had to dig 15 feet into the ground because it was right next to the river, literally next to the river, and it had probably been seeping into the river for years. And so they had to dig 15 feet down and remove all that dirt and bring new dirt in. And $2 million was what it cost taxpayers, because they bought an old blighted building with plans of knocking it down, only to find that Bert Smith of Smith & Edwards had been using this abandoned building to avoid paying for disposal of toxic waste over the years. He'd been putting it in barrels and just stacking it in this building. Benzodrine, mercury, hydrochloric acid. Just crazy stuff.